Britain is currently panicking about Palantir and NHS data. And yes, a CIA-funded surveillance company having access to everybody's hospital records is a terrible thing. But nobody is prepared for what that data is going to reveal about Great Britain. Palantir make their money by renting the infrastructure of insight to the government. Their selling point, what they can do differently, is they will scoop up all of that data into a data lake, and then they will be able to look at it and ask questions and pull insights and advise the government. This video is not about Palantir. It's about Sellafield. It's about what is in that health data. What exactly are Palantir going to see? This reel might save the UK government £300,000 because you don't need Palantir to know what the crisis is. If Palantir run their models honestly, the story that data is going to tell about our health is far worse than any privacy nightmare. We are fighting over who can see our medical records while a 100-year-old bomb factory on a cliff is bleeding swimming pools of radioactive waste into the ocean already! If you're worried about your health data, ask yourself, what fucking health is left when Sellafield is underwater? Because Palantir will run the models all right, but they won't be able to make anybody act. So even the elusive and amazing insights that this technology promises will get hidden behind commercial confidentiality. I spent my weekend using AI to help me read data that was too emotional for me to look at. With AI's help and the help of volunteer actuaries in my Discord, I have pulled together a massive data kit. We have identified all of the 12,396 sites where there is mass scale industrial contamination, and we have identified 3,509 of those sites sit within 10 kilometers of a coastline. I asked the AI system that was helping us do this horrible work, give it to me straight. Where are the top 5 most contaminated sites? Where is the worst? Where is the most urgent? And it's number 1, top of the list, reason to be afraid, is Sellafield. The AI said, Sellafield is the one that makes me truly terrified. But I also asked it, has the window closed? And it said no. So instead of worrying about Palantir and who is snooping in your underwear or how much that costs the taxpayer to install, we need to get educated and start educating, because it is not yet too late to close this, to make it safer, to avoid global level catastrophic risk. But it will be soon. And the people who are making the decisions about this are not ruthless, greedy, or stupid. They are all 3. Predominantly led by the latter. They are stupid! So here are some brutal, hard to hear home truths about Sellafield, followed by the actions that we all need to take immediately to make sure that this modelled reality doesn't come true. Sellafield sits on the coast of Cumbria in northwest England. It has been leaking 2,100 litres of radioactive activity into the water every day since 2018. That is an Olympic-sized swimming pool of radioactivity being dumped into the Irish Sea every 3 years. This plant covers 2 square miles. It contains more than 200 nuclear facilities. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there are 10,000 people working there. I want you to really focus and notice the 3 small letters on this map. It's Sellafield Limited. This company is currently making a profit of £800 million a year, taking other countries' spent fuel and storing it here. The people responsible for this are individual humans with names and addresses listed on Companies House. This is Paul Andrew Valance. He is the experienced board director at Sellafield. He is responsible for information control around the UK's nuclear cleanup business. He sits on the board at the most dangerous and hazardous nuclear site on the planet. He has been managing the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority's reputation since 2016. Paul Valance sits on the board of this limited company, but this limited company has only one shareholder, the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. Firstly, the NDA has a snazzy new logo on the UK government website, which I shudder to think how much that cost, how much they have spent on press and propaganda over this. This takes money from the central government. It is funded by taxpayers. But then it is the only shareholder on a private limited company that is making over £800 million a year, accepting other people's nuclear waste. The NDA is taking £2.7 billion a year from taxpayers. Its service agreements guarantee that every penny of that is covered. The government is accepting full risk. The taxpayer will pay for their mistakes. 2/3 of that spend, roughly £1.9 billion, goes to over 1,000 private contractors whose supply chain charter commitments are self-reported and also opaque. Their strapline is literally cleaning up our nuclear past faster, safer and sooner. This is presented as a public interest body. They're cleaning up the environment. They're decommissioning the nuclear. Right? No. This is not decommissioning shit. It is wasting taxpayer money branding the incoming disaster. Sellafield is not being decommissioned. The reinforcement construction on the 4 most dangerous buildings here is moving further and further away from completion every year. It's now scheduled for 2059, 48 years behind target and far too late to protect anybody. 2. It is leaking. When the board of this body were sitting on meetings discussing the legibility of the A in that circle, Sellafield has been leaking 2,100 litres of radioactive water into the ground and into the sea every single day since 2018. The NDA calls itself a cleanup body, but functionally and legally, on paper, it is a commercial operator. And it insures itself through its own captive insurer, so the commercial market never has to price the real risk of failure here. Rutherford Insurance Agency is wholly owned by the NDA. If the risk levels were manageable and the institution was clean, they would not need their own captive insurer. They would go to Lloyd's of London. The blunt reality is they don't want Lloyd's of London to see these numbers. As soon as Lloyd's price it, the public knows. The way that this is all structured is stupid. It is the epitome of capitalism as the snake that eats its own fucking tail. The British government owns the site, okay? It has then set up a body that insures the site through a subsidiary that is backed by the government. If the site fails, it is the British government who pays. Regardless, it is the taxpayer who pays. The concept of insurance is to transfer risk, to get help from a third party if something catastrophic happens. This is not a risk transfer, it is a bureaucratic fiction. All it does is hides the risk. It isn't solving anything. It's just adding another layer of institutional complexity between the public and the truth of what they are being exposed to. The taxpayer is committed to funding the cleanup. The taxpayer is also committed to insure these intermediary companies against their business failure. The taxpayer carries the liability if the entire Atlantic Ocean gets poisoned. And in between reality and the taxpayer, there is the NDA, Sellafield Limited, Rutherford Indemnity Limited, Nuclear Transport Solutions, Nuclear Waste Services, Nuclear Restoration Services, NDA Properties Limited, Energus, and over 1,000 private contractors, all of them taking their own fees, their own salaries, their own margins from the same public crisis that is getting worse every day. Every layer of this is designed to make it harder to answer the question, who is responsible if this fails? The answer, when you strip away all of the Russian dolls, is you are. And it's failing now! These bodies have just spent decades pouring taxpayer resources, energy and time into making sure that you can't see this clearly enough to get angry about it before it's too late. Get angry about it.